Welcome back to the Rediscovery Journal, the podcast where healing meets honesty. I'm your host, Sophia, and each week we dive deep into stories of self discovery, mental health, and the raw, real moments that shape who we are. Whether you're on the journey of growth, seeking clarity, or simply need a reminder you're not alone, you're in the right place. Let's rediscover what it means to truly know ourselves one conversation at a time. I'm currently joined by my friend Madi that I met on my path here in Texas back in March.
All the days are a blur for me. I couldn't tell you.
March. And I would say she's now probably one of my closest Texas friends. And she's also not originally from Texas. So do you want to kind of talk about your journey that led you here to Texas?
Yeah, so I'm from a military family, so I moved around a lot when I was younger. I was born in not Virginia. I was born in Georgia, not Virginia. I was born in Georgia on a lovely little military base called Fort Benning. It's not called that anymore because they hate me. Anyways, we moved to Virginia, moved around a couple different places, moved here to Texas for a little bit, Corpus Christi area. And I ended up moving to Maine with my mother and grew up there and spent most of my childhood there. Maine is beautiful, but it's cold and it's not as welcoming. People there just aren't very kind. And so I kind of didn't really like it there compared to the other places we had been, because we've been in the South where people are much more welcoming. And I just didn't have good experiences in schools. The schools were terrible, unfortunately, the ones that I went to. And the weather was not good. I have horrible allergies, so it was really hard to balance all of those things and still try to focus on my education, health issues, bullying, all sorts of things. And so I ended up getting the opportunity to move here with my father to finish out high school. And I did. And now I'm here and I've loved it.
And you're currently in college, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So I am taking the last 2 classes for my associate's degree.
That's exciting. What do you think you want to do after you get your associates?
My original plan that I had since I was a freshman in high school was to get my PhD in psychology. I've always loved the study of the mind and how everybody thinks differently, everybody's brain works differently, and it's really fascinating to me, and I love seeing the ways that people interact with each other. However, I've kind of grown down a different path, so I'm not really sure if that's what I want to do anymore. I'm kind of considering my options and different things and opportunities, so I'm definitely going to finish out. I've got my last 2 classes, so I'm going to get my general associate's degree, but I'm not really sure what the next step looks like for me right now.
Well, the funny thing is, though, like, you're so young and so well accomplished. I feel like you have your own business. Am I correct in thinking that?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about, because, well, honestly, I feel like the question is business.
Yes.
Will you talk a little bit about each of those?
Yeah, so my first business that I ever started is a small jewelry business. It's called Green and Glimmer. The primary focus is plant-inspired custom-based pieces. So, like, one of my favorite things to do is replicate plants into jewelry. It can be earrings, can be necklaces, and then we've added some new products like custom hand chains, which are so cool. I love hand chains. It was really, really awesome to be able to do that and have that be a source of income for me, but also a creative outlet and a way to channel, deal with some of the harder things that I was struggling with. When you can turn that energy into something positive and make something out of it is really helpful.
So what originally led you into wanting to create jewelry?
I started making my own jewelry because I'm just a picky person. I normally don't find jewelry that I like. And then I tend to have like weirder proportions and a lot of like metal sensitivities. So I just thought that, jewelry is kind of expensive. And I love roaming around the craft store. It's a lot easier to just make your own if you have the passion for it. So I started making my own jewelry, and then people said they really liked my jewelry. So I made jewelry for some friends, and I had a friend that suggested to me, like, you could do this for a business. And I was like, you're so right. I absolutely could. And so I've just started doing cheap vendor events, and yeah, it took off from there. And that's more of a side business now. My primary focus is my main business, but I still do vendor events. I think my next one is this weekend. I just joined one to do this weekend that I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, will you talk to us a little bit about like the name of your company, what you try to do with it, and then your upcoming events?
Yeah, so the jewelry business and doing vendor events, I kind of took on more and more of a role doing them. And I realized that I actually really enjoyed kind of doing my own, like helping out with the events, and I thought that I could do my own. So I created my company Minted by Madi that focuses on event planning, community coordination, and then resources for other businesses like branding, graphic design, all sorts, and pretty much anything that can support and boost other businesses. And I think the event that I'm most excited about coming up is the Hobby Hop, September 6th. That'll be hosted at the Magnolia Event Center in Everman. Tickets are currently on sale for $30. And at that event, that ticket price includes you get to paint your own mini terracotta pot. You get to paint your own candles, so like a big taper candle. You get to make anything that you want out of air dry clay. Those are paintable as well. And we have diamond art coasters, so you get to choose whichever you want to do. So some really cute cat ones, and I'm really excited about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
And maybe you can send me the link and I can put it on the episode.
Yes,
that comes out, so that hopefully people who are local to the area, if anyone is local, they can check it out, or they can share it as well for people to check that out. Like, what exactly got you into event coordinating, and what gets you so excited about getting involved in that realm?
Yeah, so I picked the event coordination specifically, not just doing vendor markets or things like that, because I'm very passionate about connection. I think that people don't connect as much as they should. And, humans are social creatures. We need socialization. Very bad for your brain to isolate and to spend so much, we all spend so much time on our phones. We do not interact with each other face to face enough. So it kind of started from a place of my own loneliness. I moved here my senior year of high school. Technically, it was like end of junior, but my senior year of high school. And I don't know if anybody else out there has ever, had to move schools at such a late stage. But at senior year, everybody's already been, especially in a small town like I moved to, everybody's already been friends their whole lives. And most of the people had been there since they were babies. And the teachers knew the kids since they were babies. Everybody knew each other and had been there and had already had their established friendships. And it's hard to jump into a friend group and be as close as everybody else and not kind of feel a sense of loneliness or left out or kind of regretful that you weren't there from the beginning. So to kind of combat that, I wanted to create spaces where people like myself struggling with those feelings, feeling lonely, feeling like they didn't really have a place that they belonged, or feeling like they didn't have a safe space. I wanted to create that for people and give the opportunity to express yourself and socialize and meet new people in a place that's safe, as affordable as possible, and just welcoming and inspiring.
One thing I think that's really cool about you is I feel like you just give off such like positive energy all the time. I know that there's sometimes moments where you get into your head like every person does. But how do you think that you've managed to cope or work through hard moments and still be so kind to other people in moments when they're not necessarily giving you that same respect?
Yeah, so I've unfortunately encountered a lot of situations like that in my life. My dad used to joke that I would attract strays. Yes, he said that about my friends. I attract people that are kind of more damaged, more needing support, because that's what I've kind of always been.
Yeah, I just think that's funny because my mom used to have a similar knowledge. She used to say that, like, you know how bugs are attracted to lights?
Yep.
So she used to say, like, oh, you're one of those lights that's, like, attracting all of the bugs, and the bugs are the people who, like,
Yep.
need more of that positive radiant energy. That's the only reason I was like,
no, 100%.
Because I related to that. But
yes, I think
continue with your thought.
There's definitely lots of people out there, and maybe some of your listeners can relate to that, feeling like you kind of bring those kind of people into your life. But that happens because you are such a bright and wonderful person. People see that and they want to reflect that. And sometimes you'll get people who you both get together and you make each other shine brighter. And unfortunately, sometimes, like I've had a lot of in my life, you attract those people that want that light for themselves, and they recognize that they are not capable of being kind and accepting and creating things for themselves like that. And it breeds jealousy, and they're uncomfortable with themselves. And unfortunately, the best way in their mind for them to kind of stabilize is to bring you down.
Sometimes I also feel like when you're younger and you're growing, it's really easy to do that comparison game. Mm-hmm. So if you come from an environment where maybe you aren't treated right, but maybe you have a friend whose parents treat them better than you're treated by your parents, it can cause resentment towards that person, even though that person has nothing to do with that environment. And so I think it's really hard. It's really easy to like judge people, right? And be like, oh my goodness, this person was horrible to me. But also, I doubt most of the actions and words that were said that were hurtful, at least when people were younger, right, are truly meant in the tone of who they are now.
Yes.
Because when we're young, and even, sometimes when you're older too, if you don't know how to work through your emotions and process them in a healthy way, it's a lot easier to just lash it out on other people instead of work through that. And I think that that's an instance I had several moments with things is like, I'm not saying I grew up in a perfect household. Every family has their own issues, but I think that I had attracted a lot of friends who had different situations they were going through that I didn't have to go through, and that caused some turbulence in friendships I truly cared about because there was that resentment of noticing that I wasn't going through that same level of hardship that they were.
Yep.
Instead of allowing me to be there for them the way that I would have liked to be, but you can't help people unless they're open about what they need help with.
Yes, I 100% agree with that. And I know I had a rougher childhood. I won't go too much into detail. I was raised by a single mom. She's amazing. She's my hero. Who's your hero essay, I've always picked her, but it was definitely far from perfect, and it definitely, my therapy has been quite expensive. Just, generally all of the experience of my childhood, I dealt with a lot of bad friends. I dealt with a lot of racism, even before I even knew what that was.
That's hard.
Yes, and I had a lot of bad friends, honestly, and that was kind of pretty damaging. But despite it all, my mom raised me to treat people how you want to be treated, even if they're not, set the example, even if they're not treating you how they should be, set the example and be the bigger person. And sometimes, I can go a little too far into that, and I can allow people to treat me in a way that they shouldn't, in a way that they shouldn't feel comfortable treating anybody, in full honesty. But I'm kind of working on that myself to kind of balance out the making sure that I'm not dipping into that resentment like you talked about, and, having some reflecting personal issues on a situation where it just doesn't apply. And then the other end of that is making sure that I'm not giving people too much benefit of the doubt, making sure that I'm respecting myself, and, making sure that I'm not disrespecting myself trying to respect somebody else.
Yeah. No, I think that that's really important too. And one thing I thought was interesting when I was in therapy was talking about different relationships I had in the past, because I didn't feel like I fit in with the kids who fit in, but then I didn't feel like I fit in with the kids who didn't fit in, because eventually it would be like that thing where they get frustrated with me. And so I just kind of felt like I'm just on my own and I exist here. And that's obviously kind of amassed as I've gotten older, where now I have like a mindset of like, I don't belong anywhere. Which, like, in a way, I guess that's kind of cool. Like, oh, I don't belong, but like also it's a lot like, oh no, like I get in my head about every interaction in that aspect.
Me too.
And I think it's hard because like boundaries is so hard, like such a hard topic.
Yes.
Because with some people, you can very easily say like, hey, you said this hurt my feelings. Them respond in a manner of like, oh my goodness, I didn't mean it that way. Thank you for letting me know. And like moving past it and trying to grow. And then other people, you can have conversations. Hey, you hurt my feelings. And I'm like, okay, but remember this one time you did this. So that
I didn't even mean it that way.
Yeah. So I think it's so hard because you shouldn't ever be wrong in expressing how you feel, unless what you feel is like out of pocket, right? Like inappropriate, not okay.
Some things are better kept in your head.
Yes, yeah. But like if you're feeling some sort of way about something that somebody else said or did, you shouldn't have to hold it in and like stew with it. You should have hopefully an open enough relationship with that person and enough maturity between both of you to have those harder conversations.
Yes, and boundaries has definitely been the biggest thing that I personally need to work on, I absolutely do not uphold my boundaries. And it ends up getting to the point where I'm just so frustrated because I'm thinking, why is this person talking to me like this? Why is this person treating me this way? But they're doing that because I didn't go back and uphold my boundaries from the beginning. I did make them clear. And when my boundaries were crossed, I didn't say anything. I didn't speak up for myself. So, if you don't set those limits, then people are going to think that they can treat you any kind of way. You have to set the limits. You have to uphold your boundaries, even if it's small, even if it's the smallest, tiniest thing. For example, one boundary that I have in my relationship is my boyfriend is not allowed to call me crazy. He's not allowed to call me the B word. I don't care if it's a joke. That's just, those are really often terms used to degrade women, and he is a man. So I'm not comfortable with him speaking to me like that, even if it's a joke, because a lot of the time it's not meant as a joke. And I don't think that it should be.
And something that starts small can easily snowball into something
because
bigger.
if you think it's okay to speak to me like that,
where does the line?
Where does the line get drawn? And he's fantastic. He completely respects that boundary. I think one of the closest things he ever called me was silly, maybe cuckoo. So I can be silly for sure. And he's great at respecting those boundaries because I made it clear what those boundaries were.
I think for me, I'm very good at accepting other people's boundaries, but the concept of boundaries for me, my mind glitches on. It's very hard for me to be even maybe in the moment, I guess, or in general, to be oh, what is boundaries other than a word? That my mind is
more so in the moment.
Yeah, my mind is just and then also going back after the fact and saying, hey, it's awkward, and I don't feel like we're in an age where people make conversations like that necessarily easy to be had. In terms of creativity, I feel like, you have your own jewelry business. What other kind of crafting or creativity mindsets do you try to use in order to keep propelling yourself forward?
So that's kind of a difficult question to answer, honestly. I was kind of just raised in a way that bad things happen, you got to keep going. I don't know if it's just my mother and I were both cursed and we had all of these things happen.
Series of unfortunate events?
Yes, that is. I had a therapist when I was a child that described my life as a series of unfortunate events. I was like, maybe don't say that to child me. Child me doesn't know. Let's not do that. It was accurate, but let's not cater to that. Let's not give me that mindset.
There's a book and movie.
No, but you wouldn't say that to a 10-year-old.
No, I wouldn't. But that's the
your life is trying to be unfortunate, child.
Have you seen that movie?
Yes, I had the books as a kid.
Those books are so good. Yes, the books.
So definitely accurate. Maybe not great to say as a therapist to a child client.
Yeah.
2 friends in a room is different.
Yeah.
Therapist
I
to
didn't
child.
mean it seriously.
I promise. But it brought me back to that. I was like, I had some therapists say some crazy things to me, but we won't get into that today. I can't remember the question. I got so caught up in the
No, you're fine. I asked if there's any other kind of crafting or artistic avenues that you go into deeper into yourself.
Yes. Well, I definitely, my primary is jewelry making. That I like working with my hands. My hands are moving, my brain isn't moving as fast. I used to draw a lot. I like painting. I like anything creative, in full honesty, and I love adding things to my repertoire. My
bougie word. Okay.
my favorites. I would say my favorite creative outlet out of everything. I love cooking. I love cooking so much. I refuse to make it a revenue source for myself solely because I know that I'll lose that passion for it. If food becomes a job, even cooking at home, cooking meals can kind of start to feel like a job. And I don't want to take away that passion for myself. But I love cooking. I love cooking for people that I love. It's definitely a love language for me, and it's a really great way to express myself. My grandmother is a fantastic baker and a cook.
Is that where you think you got your skills from?
Yes. My mom definitely encouraged. My grandma didn't teach my mom as much cooking stuff, so she didn't have as much practical skill to teach me, but she very much kind of fanned the spark for me because she could tell that I enjoyed it as a kid. She bought me my own little griddle and I would make her pancakes.
That's so cute.
I would make her Mother's Day meals every year. She'd get pancakes and eggs. I'd bring it right to her in bed. So she really inspired that in me. And even though she wasn't really able to give me the practical skills herself, she made sure that she kind of catered to it and she encouraged me to cook. And I was very lucky. The high school that I graduated from had a culinary class. Shout out Mrs. Kenny, she was awesome. But I kind of got to develop my skills a little bit more there, because originally I had been more of a baker, but in that class I got the opportunity to cook things I hadn't cooked before. And now I'll make like steak dinners, I'll make jambalaya. I have this orange pasta that I'll make that
Pasta.
tonight I'm cooking. It's like my take on Cajun pasta.
Interesting. I don't think I've ever had that either.
It's Cajun seasoned pasta. The base is tomato and heavy whipping cream, so it's kind of like a vodka sauce.
Okay.
However, I will like brown. It's kind of like marry me pasta, but a little bit more of my take on it.
Never heard of that.
No, okay. It's like a TikTok thing.
Marry me pasta?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But it's not the same. I don't do it the same. I like to add onions, and I'll do peppers, and I'll do sun-dried tomato. I'll do smoked sausage and chicken inside of it, so it's kind of like a gumbo pasta.
You lost me at sausage, but the rest of it sounds great.
It's good sausage. I'll cook it for you, and I'll take out the sausage. I won't put it in. I won't. I'll just put like extra smoked paprika.
Or you can be like my dad and just tell me it's not sausage, but I'll know later.
I'll just scoop your portion that doesn't have it. But I won't give away any more secrets of my special pasta.
Of your trade.
However, it is delicious, and I love making it, and it is like this beautiful orangey color, and
you'll have to send pictures.
I will. It's
just
good.
like
I'll make it for you sometime.
I'm invested now in what it's gonna look like.
I like to make crispy chicken with it too. I make like little chicken
God.
fritters, and I put the Cajun seasoning on the crispy chicken.
You brought that up just because you know I have a thing for chicken.
You just gotta come over. I'll cook for you.
I have like have dreams about like chicken tenders, chicken nuggets.
Yes, you'll just have to come over.
Any of the chickens. I'm like, that's some good chicken. Oh my gosh, funny. Speaking about food, two of our other mutual friends, Cindy and Leilani, came over on Friday, and Cindy made homemade traditional fried rice, like not Americanized fried rice.
I bet that was good.
Girl,
she seems like she'd be a good cook.
Yes, and it's like from her culture too. So she's like, I'm gonna make it the right way. When I think of fried rice, I think of like the Americanized version, right? And then we got like for meat, like we went to Panda Express to get like their entrees and meat.
Okay.
Man, are those portions small, especially for what you pay. The small was like the box was like that big, and Leilani was like, we paid this much money for this, and I'm like, I'm sorry, we looked up the pictures of the sizing online and they look so much bigger in the pictures.
Yeah. Well, they do that on purpose. It's a marketing gimmick.
Yeah, and then we got it and we were like, oh.
Especially like the small, they make the small really small, so you buy the medium. If you buy the medium, then you might as well
because
buy
we decided to get a medium and a small of two different kinds, because we were like, we can get a large, but a large will be too big based on this picture. The small was like, even a child would want more.
Yeah. That's why you gotta support the mom and pops. The mom and pops are gonna give you a big old portion.
And it will probably taste amazing.
Like one of our favorite restaurants, they pack your plate.
I told her, I'm like, I don't know if I can make fried rice again, because I make white people fried rice with like not good proportions of sesame oil and soy sauce. It's always a work in progress. It always changes. And I have like all the vegetables in the kingdom in it. I have mushrooms, zucchini, broccoli, onion. She's like,
zucchini teriyaki is so good.
Yeah, like I put just like all of it in. She's like, yeah, the only thing that we normally use from that list is like a little bit of onion. And I'm like, okay, but it was so good. And it's funny because at first she was like, it might be a little bit salty. And Leilani and I were like, this is amazing. I could sit down and eat this for hours and still want more. This is really good. Yeah, just like, sorry. Just like speaking of food in that aspect, it's just so good. So maybe sometime we can get dessert and make it again.
Yes,
because it was
yes.
If Cindy watches,
yes, please. I'll make you some jambalaya or
do anything
Cajun pasta, okay? And you make me some of that rice,
and I'll just be there.
And Sophia will be there for moral support.
Yeah, and. So another topic I'm curious about is, how do you think that you've kind of evolved over the years? I know that you're still younger.
Yes.
But how do you think that you've kind of evolved into the person that you are today? And how do you think that has changed the way at which you deal with difficult situations that occur in your life?
I definitely, when I was younger, ironically, the point in my life where I was the most outspoken and confident was when I was a child. Like, pre 8 years old. My mom would tell me I've got some crazy stories, like yelling at full-fledged adults about, like, their kid being mean to my brother, because child me was not gonna let that slide. Just all sorts of, like, different stories and situations, and I did not let people disrespect little me. Little me was not about that, because she raised me to be confident. And I would say I had a pretty bad medical situation when I was about 8 years old. I had a 6-inch diameter tumor that was removed from my abdomen and has given me, like, health complications. My appendix almost ruptured. It was pretty violent. And that caused me to miss a lot of school. And then missing a lot of school caused both teachers and students to treat me pretty poorly.
Really?
Yes, I have some stories.
That is wild.
Stories.
I would hope people would be understanding.
After the fact was a little bit better. Leading up to it, it was my symptoms were written off as attention seeking and food sensitivities and anxiety and all of these other things. Of course, it ended up being this gigantic tumor.
Sometimes I also feel like that's what comes with, like, being a woman sometimes, is being told that it's in your head. Because I know from my stomach condition, like, it was something I was born with, and until I was 21, I just had doctors being like, honey, you don't have anything, like, let's stop this charade. It
took from, I think I started having symptoms when I was maybe 5 or 6 years old, and it took up until I was 8 years old. I could not walk. My mom had to carry me into the emergency room. I was stuck on the couch throwing up. I couldn't keep anything. I couldn't keep water down. She was giving me, like, candy and stuff, trying to get me to eat it, and I wouldn't even, like, or not candy. She wasn't giving me candy. She would give me stuff that I liked, like my favorite snacks. I remember specifically blue Gatorade. I really wanted blue Gatorade, and I couldn't keep it down. And it ended up, I couldn't even walk, and she carried me into the hospital, and she was like, please do something. And
obviously wrong.
And ended up being this gigantic tumor that was cutting off the blood flow to my other organs.
That's scary.
And I would say, like, that feeling really gave me, or that situation really gave me a feeling of being not confident in myself, because people wrote me, I knew that something was wrong. I knew that that wasn't how my body was supposed to feel, but everybody was telling me, oh, it's just this, oh, it's just that. And so that, accompanied with the kind of bullying that I was experiencing and that kind of stretched on into later years, really damaged my confidence and my ability to speak up for myself. And unfortunately, there were just a lot of situations where I was kind of, like, discounted and discredited and just kind of not treated fairly. And I mean, for different reasons. I know that there were definitely situations in life where people treated me poorly because they saw how much I was capable of. There were definitely some situations in my childhood where I was treated poorly because of my race. My first instance with racism was a cultural project in elementary school where I just brought a picture of my dad, and the other kids realized that he was black. And I had a little girl who followed me around for about 2 weeks just yelling black person. She wouldn't call me by my name. She would only call me black person.
Oh my god.
And I cried. I just didn't understand, because she was yelling it at me, and I didn't understand, in my head, race didn't exist like that. I wasn't a black person, like, in my head.
You're just a person.
So that was kind of really hard to deal with, and I just had all of these situations, even, like, scaling up to, like, full death threats in middle school. They had actually, this person had contacted me on Instagram and sent me, like, photos of, like, historical photos of lynchings. And they were like, this is going to be you. I know where you live. Da-da-da-da-da. And the police didn't do anything about it, of course, because...
Yeah.
Go ahead and look up the demographics of Maine. You'll see what the issue is.
That's wild.
Yes.
Going off of, like, projects, though, when younger and, like, being younger and not, like, understanding that concept, I think it's so funny because my idol when I was little was Martin Luther King Jr. I was obsessed with him. I feel like that's not an idol that, like, a lot of people in, like, second grade, third grade have, but, like, he was my number one. Might have even been first grade, I'm not sure.
I can totally see why. I think it's a little unexpected demographically,
but because I'm white.
Yes, but it's definitely a good idol to have.
I was literally obsessed with him. We had a project on, like, on doing, like, your historical hero or whatever. I remember a lot of people did theirs on like soccer players and a bunch of other people, and I MLKJ.
love that. I love that so
And
much.
I didn't understand the concept of race at the time.
Mhm.
So that's why this story is a little bit funny. I told my parents, I'm like, I don't look like him. We need to make me look like him.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
They drew a little mustache on me, and I'm like, it's not enough. No one's gonna know who I am. I'm just a man in a suit. And they're like, we can't do that. Like, that is not okay. And I'm like, I start crying. I'm like, no one will know. I will not be representing him.
Oh my goodness.
Long story short, they did not let me go like that. So there's
you
just
canceled on Twitter.
I'm in a suit that's like way too big for me with this little black mustache drawn on. And it was my dream. I was so happy to represent
Sophia.
MLKJ. Yeah, it was my dream. But I was really sad because I went home and I'm like, you guys didn't let me get the whole vision. Nobody.
That is so funny.
I had to really explain, and my parents were like, we were talking about this a few months back, and they were like, aren't you so glad we didn't let you do that? And I'm like, wow, like, you're so socially aware for white people. But me as a child, I was like, no, I need to represent full out.
That's more normal though. Like if you were to, at a younger age, a child really shouldn't see themselves as being, like so different from a person or looking like that person being wrong.
Yeah, no.
Don't let your kids do blackface.
Yeah, that's
let me get that little disclaimer.
No, but my parents were good and didn't let me. But like I was like low-key in love with him too. I cried so hard over it. I was devastated. I was like, why can't you let me look like him and just do right by him? Like, this is not going to get the message across. But it's so funny to think of how, I guess, like, things change because then when you get older, you're more aware of like the different effects on things like that. Right, because like obviously when, like you said, when you're younger, you're not, hopefully categorizing people like that.
I didn't think about it like that. I pretty much categorize people as like nice, mean, boy, girl.
Yeah, and like even now, like I don't necessarily care about I don't care about anyone's physical features, and not in a mean way, but like it doesn't affect whether or not I want to have a relationship with somebody based on like any feature they cannot control about themselves.
Exactly.
The only things that I care about is, are you a genuine person?
Yes.
Or not?
Yes. And it can be really hard to recognize. Like that's one thing that I'm kind of working on trying to get better at is discernment and be able to recognize when a person has good intentions or bad intentions, or if they're a good person or a bad person. And that definitely caused me some problems when I was younger because I couldn't discern when somebody was taking advantage of me, when somebody was being mean to me. But I was to recognize, oh, this person's so nice. But I didn't catch on as quick. And even to this day, like dealing with some clients, I don't recognize as quickly when somebody's being rude, when somebody's being disrespectful, when somebody's trying to take advantage of me. A lot of the time, it'll take an outside opinion because I am very introspective in myself in the way that I treat people, and sometimes I get so caught up in making sure that I'm treating somebody how, like, I think that they would want to be treated, that I don't recognize that they're not treating me how I think a decent human being should be treated.
No, I agree with that. And I think it's really easy for me. I have like snapshots of moments where I kind of relive like pretty much any conversation I have with any person ever. After that moment is over, I'm analyzing like, I feel like that went well, but did it really go well? And did my intent have the same impact that I was hoping for?
Yes.
That's why it like goes back to that conversation I think I mentioned to someone, I don't even know if it was on the podcast or not, about like you can be talking to 8 people at the same time, right? Having a conversation, and each person is going to take what you're saying different based on their life experiences. And so maybe none of those people get what you meant out of that, or maybe 1 or 2 of them do, but you have to take really deep thoughts and considerations into what you're actually saying and how it comes across, because you don't want to hurt someone when you're not trying to say something hurtful.
Yeah. I would say to an extent though, you can't predict how other people are going to react to what you say, and you can't take so much time and so much mental energy yourself to analyze every single word you say, because that's not fair to yourself. You're not being authentic to yourself. So I fully understand what you're saying. You should definitely make sure, that you're paying attention to your audience and you're being respectful and you're making sure that, you're clearly communicating what you're trying to get across, especially in a conflict. But at that same time, don't Don't be upset when somebody might not understand what you meant. The best thing you can do is try to clarify, but not everybody's going to get it. Not everybody's going to understand you. Not everybody is going to want to understand you. You know, that's something that I've had to accept, is that people are going to have their own interpretations, and there's only so much you can do. At a certain point, you got to realize that, everybody's their own person, and sometimes if they're not willing to meet you where you are, then you've done all you can do.
Yeah, I think it's just hard because I'm an overanalyzer. So
yes.
I just constantly think about my impact on others.
Yeah.
And I don't want to. I know that it's not possible to be a quote unquote hero in everyone's story, but I would like to limit the amount of stories that I'm a villain in.
Yes, absolutely.
And also, kind of going back to what you said about knowing what it's like to be small. I don't want to say something and make someone feel small.
Yes.
Like, I know, and also, I don't know, just being like from my personal genetics and my personal background, I know that there's a lot of things about the world or different life scenarios that people have gone through that I will not have experienced, and I don't want to accidentally say something that is going to hurt someone because it's an issue that I have no experience with and impact someone in a negative light because of that. And I think I just overthink in that aspect because I'm like, you don't know what you don't know. And I know that I don't know a lot of things.
Yes.
And because of that, I'm like, oh gosh, like what if I say this one thing and if it relates to something that I don't know that's like severely affected someone's life, right? What are your thoughts?
I can't imagine you doing that. I completely understand where you're coming from. And I think that is one of the hardest aspects in upholding your boundaries. You don't want to be the bad guy. Nobody wants to be the villain. Nobody wants to be the bad guy. Everybody wants to be the good guy, the hero, oh, she's so nice, oh, she's so amazing. But you discredit and disrespect yourself when you take more consideration for other people's feelings than your own. Nobody is going to advocate for you as much as you do yourself. Nobody is going to understand you the way you understand yourself. So your number one responsibility is to advocate for, protect, and represent Sophia. That's your number one thing, And again, audience, everybody's going to be different. You got to kind of cater what you're saying. Like, I wouldn't come on here and start saying a bunch of expletives, If I'm having a meeting with a client, I'm not going to be like using all sorts of slang and stuff. I'm going to be using my full vocabulary and not saying things like I'm a bee. But everybody is different, and you really can't make anybody do anything, and you can't interpret the way they're going to react to things. So the best thing that you can do is uphold your boundaries. Because if upholding your boundary, if somebody else finds that disrespectful, then that is not somebody you want in your life.
Yeah, I think it's just hard because, like, I recognize that I'm in a majority group, and I don't want to put things I don't know onto other people, where people who are minorities who have to constantly explain things to people who are in the majority feel like I am another person who is putting on them to explain something to me that they shouldn't have to, if that makes sense, what I'm trying to say.
Kind of. But I mean, you can't know everything, though. You can only do so much. You can't know every single thing in every situation. How are you expected to know something if you don't have any experience with it?
I don't know. I just feel guilt.
I was actually having this conversation with somebody just the other day. The difference between intentional and unintentional ignorance. You can't know everything. There are plenty of things that I don't know and I don't understand. Like, I'm ignorant. I'm not very worldly, so I'm ignorant about a lot of different cultures. And there's some things that I've seen where I'm like, ooh, that is very strange to me because I'm not used to it. I mean, it'd be different if you went around like, let me not say something like non-PC. Like, if you were going around saying all this crazy stuff or like assuming, like, stereotyping about people or things like that, but you should not be expected to know things that you have no background for knowing. That'd be like if I walked up to you right now and I was like, Sophia, what's an SEO? What's an SEO? It's a marketing term. Do you know what an SEO is?
No idea.
Well, why don't you know that term? So come on, Sophia. You're friends with business people. Why don't you know business terms, Sophia?
I mean, I guess.
Because you're not supposed to know. What background would you have for knowing that it's search engine optimization, something that you use on websites and stuff? You wouldn't have any background knowledge for knowing that. Sure, you could look it up and see it, but you don't even know that it exists. How would you know? If you were going about it and you see the situation and you're just like, oh, well, that doesn't affect me, that's different. But if your first experience, it is your first experience with the situation where you don't know that much about it and you have questions or you don't understand, you should have people that you feel comfortable reaching out to and saying, hey, I was kind of confused about this, or I heard about this. You should have people that you feel comfortable reaching out to for clarification, and you should not have to feel like you're watching every single thing you say to avoid offending somebody. Because people who love you, and let's be honest, people that are reasonable aren't going to be offended by you not knowing and not understanding something that you have no experience in. I don't expect you to know about I am a mixed race person. I don't expect you to know what that experience is like. I am sure that, one thing that I was at a gathering the other day, and there was this girl, I think she's so sweet. I love her. She's great. However, I think on more than one instance, she said things that would generally be considered like microaggressions. They were, racially based, and she wasn't trying to be hateful. She wasn't trying to be rude. She was being very nice, and she was trying to compliment me. But the way that it is, it's a micro racism. Like, for example, you don't think I want someone finds and you think that I secretly hate her or something. But
what example would be if someone says they like your hair?
Liking my hair versus
I see people's hair, I like it all the time, but I don't know. Sometimes I'm to me it doesn't matter what someone looks like. I can be like, oh my god, I think your hair.
Let me do a reverse one. I think that's the best way to communicate this here. So let's say I'm a stranger, right?
Okay.
And I walk up to you in public and I say, my gosh, your hair is so straight. I bet you wash it so often. What do you do to get it that straight? It just is that straight? Is that your real hair, or are you wearing a straightened wig? Is that your real hair? Can I touch it? Can I feel it? Can I see it? Yeah, I've had that. I couldn't tell you more than times I could count on a hand. I've had people just straight up walk up to me and grab my hair. Not even ask me.
Ask you, is that your real hair?
Oh, yes. I've been asked if it's my real hair. I've had people feel my hair and
imagine.
I remember one time someone was like, I guess it really does feel like, no, what did she say? I don't, something about it being black people hair being sheeple or something like that.
About what?
There's, I can't remember. Like an animal. There's an animal. I think it's it might be sheep. I could be wrong.
I've never heard that in my life.
And she was like, oh, I guess it really does feel like that. And I was like, if you don't get away from me right now, because that's not a nice thing to say to somebody.
I just always
don't
get in my
head, an animal.
Telling someone who isn't white, I think your hair is cute.
But
because I don't want them to get mad at me.
Compliment, though.
I know, but that's how I mean it.
The way that would be bad is oh, you have really nice hair for a black person is totally different.
Yeah,
but if you go up to somebody, if you say, I like your hair, you should not be afraid to do that. Please compliment people. I've gotten in my head a lot about it, because I not just with people of different races, people in general. I get in my head about now, because I don't know. I'm what if that is their trigger of Let me give you an example. So I feel like you have to disclaimer for this. People are insane. You cannot ever know what people are gonna get upset about. The other day, I can't remember where I was or what I was doing, but I was being I think I was being served by somebody with heterochromia, where their eyes are two different colors.
That's
and
so cool.
I had to weigh in my head for a minute. I was like, okay, I think her eyes are beautiful, and I really want to compliment her eyes. However, my mother has that condition, and I know that she was very insecure about that. And so I said, you know what? I think that if I had an insecurity and somebody was like, your eyes are so beautiful, my mother has, her eyes are different colors, and I just think it's so cool. So I complimented her, and she was like, that's so, oh my gosh, thank you so much. That's so sweet. She absolutely could have been oh, thanks, and it hurt her feelings and she went away. I kind of just had to discern in that moment. I wanted to compliment her. She was really nice. We were having continued interaction. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give the compliment. I'm going to structure it the best way I can. And I hope that she sees it for what it is. A compliment. And she did. And it was a great interaction. And she was lovely. But again, a different person, the same exact way I could have said it, could have been well, not everybody with this condition actually likes their eyes. Some people find it as an insecurity. That's just a miserable person. a genuine, reasonable person is going to at least acknowledge that you're trying to compliment them, and they're going to give you some type of response, like, thank you.
I guess that's true. I think I just get in my head a lot. And I like to compliment people, but I'm also like, I've had people, not when it comes to compliments, but like, I really, truly, genuinely think it's so important to tell people that we appreciate them.
Yes.
And so sometimes I do that to an extreme point, or maybe it seems extreme to some people. To the point where if I message someone and I'm like, hey, like, I was thinking about you today. I really appreciate who you are as a person and having you in my life. I've had people be like, that's so annoying. You need to stop.
I'm going to be honest, those are just bad people.
Or you're being
if
too
you're that
much.
person, don't be that person.
I've been told, like, oh my God, you're being too much right now. Or
I
being
can see if
asked,
you were like sending 12 texts in a row, but come on.
Or I've been asked, like, are you about to do something stupid to yourself?
See, now, I'm going to be honest. If you sent me, like, something late at night and you were like, I love you, you're such a great friend, like, thank you for everything you've done for me, I'd be a little concerned. I would be a little concerned if anybody sent me that message, just because in the back of my mind, you know, I've had some friends who, you know,
Had
I'll go
struggles.
into detail with that. Yeah. I've had late nights spent up, you know, sending messages, didn't have a car, so couldn't really do anything but frantically text. So I'd be like, oh, you're so sweet. Like, I really appreciate you as a friend too. Are you okay? I don't, like, sneak that in there.
Yeah, it's really...
I'd be less worried about that with you.
It makes me...
I could see that one.
feel anxious now expressing any positive feelings or thoughts that I have about people, because the response that I have gotten has been drastically upsetting or with an aggressive tone in the past year or so.
That just comes down to, unfortunately, you have to be very careful the people that you invest your time in and surround yourself with. I hate to say it and I hate to diss your people, but if that is somebody's response to you being loving and caring, then they're just not a very good person. I could see, I guess, if you were, like, completely blowing up their phone. If it were me, I'd just be like, you know, I really appreciate that. Like, are you, because I would probably assume that you were kind of going through something, you were having a bit of a rough time if you were sending me, like, a bunch of messages along the kind of tones of what you were saying. And I would be like, oh, you know, I'm kind of working on this thing. Do you mind if I message you in a bit? Like, something like that. Or I'd be like, oh, do you want me to, I can come over for a little bit? Like, something like that, you know? But just telling somebody that you love them or that you really appreciate them, and for them to react to you with hostility is wrong. That is wrong. That's not the way that people should respond. That's not the way somebody who loves you is going to treat you. It's really important to surround yourself with people who appreciate you and love you and care about you. Because the correct response to that, there is only a correct response. The correct response to that is to reply with the same love and care and energy as you put it into your message.
I think it's just maybe the realm at which I used to work in post-graduation. It really had me think about, you never really know when dark things are going to happen to you. And of course I was aware of that pre-employment. But when you're with it every day, it really makes you think and see the world differently. So now I feel like there should be such an emphasis, especially when it's a lot harder to be open about when we're having dark times. I'm like, if maybe I send this to someone who's having a hard day that I truly care about, and they can realize that they're making an important impact on at least one person's life, that's worth it for me. Yes. Plus, also, like, I know sometimes it's awkward sometimes when people give you a compliment, but, like, who doesn't want to be told, like, hey, you're important?
And I mean, if that's the case, then just say, oh, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Something like that. You don't even have to respond you don't even have to respond in full, sappy, I love you back message. Yeah, but you can say, that means a lot. Thank you. I really appreciate that. You're a great friend. You could say something simple back. And again, I would say there's not one specific correct, like there's not a specific script you have to follow. But it is not a correct response to be responding to lovingness with hatefulness. That is not the way a friend should never treat you with hatefulness. Even if you're having an argument, everything in my life, I have never treated somebody hatefully. Ever. Never, ever, ever. ever, 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 no matter the circumstances, because I don't operate that way. I joke about it, like, oh, I hate this, I hate that. But truly, I don't have hate in my heart. Yeah. I justify, like, you know what, that person's treating me bad, and they're probably not as good of a person as I thought they were, but we're different people. They were raised differently. They have different experiences. I make all these justifications, and when I encounter people like that in my life, I'm just like, you know what, we're different people. That's my cue to move on. Mm-hmm. And you shouldn't keep people in your life that feel comfortable to push your boundaries, to treat you disrespectfully, hatefully, of any kind, in any way. You need people in your life that respect you, that uplift you and challenge you, treat you with kindness, treat you how you treat them. And it doesn't mean, that they need to do everything that you do for them. Friendships are give and take. But if all that they're doing is taking, then they're not a friend. That's not what a friend does. It should be a mutual exchange. And if it's not mutual, then it's not friendship. That's just a person taking advantage of you, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but there is a question that I try and ask every single guest who probably prepped for it. What era do you think that you're currently in within your life or given self at the moment?
I was a little bit ready for this question. Although I'm changing my answer a little bit.
Ooh, okay.
I am in my healing and my building era. Era. I'm in my healing and my building era. I am working on creating the opportunities that I wish I had for myself, whether that be social opportunities, whether that be kind of trying to build my wealth and my knowledge for myself, building new spaces, new things, bringing new things to life. And also working on myself, building out myself and healing, some of those more damaged little internal parts of myself, learning how to demand the respect that I deserve, how to uphold my boundaries, and how to recognize, kind of like we were talking about, when somebody just doesn't deserve my time and effort and energy. That would definitely be.
Do you have any closing thoughts before I go into my extra?
You
don't have to. You don't have to.
I would definitely. There's one thing that I'm very big about is I always advocate for people to do the hard thing. If you have an idea, if you have something that you want to change, take the steps to make it happen, even if those steps are small. Even you might have a big business idea. You might, just want to change some things in your personal life. You might just be dealing with something hard and trying to get through it. But take the steps, make it happen, You can't expect change without making at least positive change, without taking the steps. And I think a lot of people get overwhelmed and they don't know where to start. Reach out to somebody that you have to support you. And if you don't have somebody in your life that you feel comfortable reaching out to, you can try therapy. Try socializing more, meet new people, find those connections, because they are so important. Whether that's a professional connection, whether that's a friend, whether whether it's family, it's really important to have somebody in your corner. It's really important to take risks and take chances, even small ones. I'm not talking about financial investments and crazy things. But you have a business, you want to do something like you've done with your podcast. Just start. Take a step. Try it. That would be my final bit.
Nice. Okay, so I'm just going to dive into my extra, which for those of you who've been listening, I still don't have it memorized, just like I don't have my intro memorized, but it's fine. This is not an acting gig, so it is what it is. Anyway, thank you for joining me on this journey of rediscovery. If today's journey or conversation resonated with you, I'd love for you to, God, I hate this part, subscribe, leave a review, or share this episode with someone who you think might need it. Remember, healing isn't linear, and growth takes courage, but you're never alone in it. Let's keep the conversation going. Follow the Rediscovery Journal on Instagram at the Rediscovery Journal and connect with our community. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and most of all, keep showing up for yourself. Thank you!